Man, I'm tired of this shit.
Dude, I was listening to that. Leave it alone.
This is absolute trash.
I don't care. Driver picks the station. Shotgun shuts his cake hole.
Passenger gets first dibs on everything. I have my finger on the button.
You know what? You want to fight about it?
Yeah.
Okay,
fuck
fine.
you.
Hey,
Fuck you.
leave it alone.
No.
It's mine.
Turn your trash off. Now look what you did.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Dissonant Harmonics podcast. I am Fraiser.
I'm Josh, and I can play the ukulele with my toes, but not well.
Every episode starts with a fun fact about Josh, from Josh, about Josh, by Josh.
Yes, 100%. This is all about me.
So today we are going to hit up quite a bit of news because a lot happened in the past week.
We're not talking about Linkin Park.
No, we're not ever going to talk about Linkin Park's big bombshell. We figure that's for the professionals in the industry. We shouldn't even touch that subject. That's a bad idea.
That's a canceled subject right there.
Oh, canceled by whom?
Linkin Park.
Yeah. So let's hit some of the smaller details and the finer things that have happened in the music world, and we'll start at the kind of least important and work our way up to the top. We'll start with, on my end, I picked up that Chris Adler, former drummer of Lamb of God, has finally launched a new band called Shallow Rising. In his statement, it kind of sounded like he's done with all of his other bands. What
other bands was he in?
Other bands. What was that?
What other bands was he in besides Lamb of God? I mean, he hasn't been with Lamb of God for a while.
Yeah, he had two other short side projects that sounds like it's kind of inferred that he's not doing them anymore. He didn't officially say, but he kind of just said something along the lines of this band is home now, and it's better than the other projects I've worked on. Not being a jerk, but just kind of like I'm done with everything else. It kind of sounds like. So waiting for more details on that. There's not a whole lot of details except for that he's officially brought out his new band called Shallow Rising. Another big one, or another little tidbit, Wasp dropped a band called Unto Others from their upcoming tour. Unto Others released a statement basically saying that it was last minute, they had no idea, and the only reason that they have been told as to why Wasp dropped them from the tour is that pardon me,
Jesus said so.
Well, yeah, basically it sounds like Wasp's camp said, quote, you guys weren't promoting the tour enough, which was a bunch of baloney. I'm sorry, let me back up. They didn't have a, quote, marketing plan as to how to market the tour, which Unto Others released their receipts and said, not only did we give you a marketing plan, but we've been pushing this tour for months now. So that's a bunch of crap. Wasp also dropped one of the other bands off of it, and if you look through the comments quite a bit, almost all of them say, well, I was going to go see this tour not only because of Wasp, but because of Unto Others and the other band that was also supposed to open. I apologize, I can't remember that band's name. It's one I know, but I can't think of it. And now everybody's basically asking for refunds because they were basically there to see the opening bands more than they were to see Wasp, which is unfortunate but hilarious.
Why do I get the feeling that Wasp is saying, hey, we want these other bands off of the tour so we can try and make more money, and now all the people that were going to go see this other band are saying, we want refunds, so now Wasp isn't going to get any money. I mean, they might as well just cancel the tour at this point.
Right, exactly. This is almost like the opening scene of The Dark Knight where the Joker kills off everybody so he can have all the money for himself. That's pretty much what Wasp has been doing.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, the main bad guy is like, hey, let's book this tour, get a whole bunch of people to pre-sell or buy tickets, and then we'll fire all the other bands, not have to pay them anything, and then we'll get literally all the money from the tour.
Yeah, so I'm really getting the feeling that, I'm surprised Wasp is still around.
Right. I mean, the fact that they're still going is shocking. I know Blackie Lawless had said some things here a couple months ago that were not very well received.
Unsavory.
Right.
Well, wasps aren't known for their sweetness.
No. What do you got on your, I got a couple more to hit, but what do you got on your end that's big that you want to talk about?
Apparently, sounds like Vitriol is losing half of the band right as their tour is either starting or I think they've already started their tour.
Yeah, they are like 7 dates into the tour.
Yeah, so Vitriol was set up to be a 4-piece going into this tour at the beginning of the year, and now with half the ranks gone, with Daniel Martinez exiting the band, and now we're talking to only vocalist Kyle Rasmussen and drummer Matt Kilner to carry on this group as they're booked all the way through September 30th. And it sounds like there's not really a lot of bad blood to it, but they did film a little video on one of their social media accounts after the Portland show on their tour. Their bass player vocalist Adam Roethlisberger, that's an unfortunate name, I'm sorry, that he's the co-vocalist and bass player, and it sounds like he was also one of the original members, said that basically he was leaving, as going on to saying it was a very turbulent beginning to tour financially, mentally, and pretty cryptic about how he's been working with this guy for 12 years and he's just decided that he's not digging the vibe anymore.
Well, that and from what Kyle had said, one of the remaining members and main songwriters, he came out and specifically said that he can be hard to work with. And he also said that even before this tour, it sounded like Adam was kind of halfway out the door as is. So it was just starting the tour was like the straw that broke the camel's back of like, okay, this is too much. Maybe maybe he had the full intention of like, okay, I'm going to go out and do my gig and this will probably be the last one. We'll see how it goes. And got on the road and realized just, oh my gosh, this is a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, Vitriol's a sick band. I can't deny him on that one. I mean, they're going to find somebody that's going to be able to fill in those roles, but it's almost like, who was it? We Butter the Bread with Butter. They lost all the members except for the original vocalist who came back and the guitar player who also writes all their music. They fired half the band and then showed up at a festival show in Germany with 2 members of the band and all the other instruments just being played over the PA system.
That's a bad idea.
Oh, it looked like a high school talent show.
Right, exactly.
So I'm sure that they probably already have backups ready to go just in case, or they might have, the techs come in and fill in those roles until they finish the tour. But yeah, I agree with you on what he was saying. It sounds like he's pretty hard to work with. He's probably like Vitriol is very technical, so I'm sure there's a lot of I want this done my way kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And you can only take that for so long before you're just like, you know what, F it, I'm done.
Yeah, well, and then, I'm the same way. It's kind of nice because I can be sympathetic because I know when it comes to music, at least, I am and you've dealt with me in the studio before.
I know, you put bamboo splinters under my toenails because I wouldn't play the one bass note you wanted.
Yep. It's supposed to be a D sharp. You played a D.
Yeah.
But my thing is, like, I want my music to sound a certain way, and I'm not a jerk about it. I feel like I'm pretty, like, hey, let's do this instead, or, like, I try to be gentle about it. But I do have that, like, hey, it's my music. I'm going to have it written my way. Since I can play all the parts, since I can play drums, bass, guitar, and all that, I have a vision for how I want all those to sound. And if I have people come in to play, or, even if it is a co-writer, I specifically want a certain section to sound a certain way, and I can, I'm stubborn on that stuff. So it's not like I'm saying maybe he didn't handle it well, or maybe Adam just didn't want to be in that position anymore. I mean, we talked about this back when Jordan Fish left Bring Me the Horizon. Ollie pretty much runs that show. And right. I've heard that Sully Erna is the same way with Godsmack. It's pretty much Sully's way or no way. So not that it's always coming across as yelling or being a jerk or like an iron fist, but there's also a point to where some people are like, look, I want to have some creative control. And in like projects like mine, there's not a whole lot of that because I'm the main songwriter and singer and everything, and I write everything. And then if someone comes up with a really good idea, I'll accept it, but you really have to get it past my thick skull to get me to like it.
Yeah, that's why I still have the bamboo splinters under my toenails.
You just like him at this point. You've had him there for 6 years. It's no longer it's no longer abuse. It's a fetish.
It's not invasive anymore. It's just part of the plan.
Right. You had one other one that was kind of a big deal and tragic.
I have, yeah. So Brian May, the guitar player from Queen, suffered what he said is a minor stroke, but was apparently unable to move his left arm because of it. Briefly. Tell me if this doesn't sound like an adult man to you. He basically said that he didn't want to bring it to any public attention because he didn't want any sympathy from it, saying that it wasn't that bad, that he didn't need to go to the hospital.
Well, I mean, so yes, I totally agree. But also there's a level of you got to realize this dude is also probably sought after day in and day out. So it's probably less of sympathy and more of private life.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys, call me crazy. I'm one of those guys that when I get 80 happy birthday messages on my Facebook on my birthday, it actually does drive me batty. And not that I don't feel grateful for all those people saying it, but I'm like, I don't need the all of a sudden outpouring. I love all you guys anyway. We don't need to say this kind of thing. Like, I get it. So I think that's more of like maybe him being like, look, thank you very much for your sympathies, but I didn't want to put it out there so that I didn't get inundated with messages, notifications, the fricking rock tabloids as they are today, just circulating fricking Facebook for 24 or 48 hours about how Brian May had a stroke and all the rumor mill that could come with it. I think it's more that than anything. Because, and to be fair to him, he's right in terms of strokes. I mean, everyone hears a stroke and kind of freezes like cancer, which is fair. But a minor stroke, having losing use of your left arm for an hour or two is a minor stroke. A normal quote unquote stroke is when you start losing permanent use of faculties for weeks or months. So the fact that he only lost, not that a stroke isn't a big deal, but he is correct in saying it is a minor stroke only because he lost use of his left arm for a couple of hours and then it came right back. So yeah. I think this was more to avoid the 24-hour news cycle that we have nowadays with, oh my gosh, Brian May had a stroke, and him having to just go, guys, I'm alive. I went to the hospital, lost use of my left arm for like a couple of hours. I'm fine. I'm back at home. The doctors are working on it. Calm down.
Yeah, because he said in a social media video that the good news is that he can play guitar after the event of the last few days, and continued with, I say this because I was in some doubt because of a little health hiccup happened about a week ago. What they called it was a minor stroke. I mean, Brian May's 77 years old. I mean, he doesn't have to impress anybody anymore.
Right. Well, and the fact that he already went back to playing guitar, like full function of his arm within a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's a minor stroke. He had a blood clot. It was probably a small one. It got a little too close to where it shouldn't have been and caused a slight disruption, a short circuit, and now he's back at it. So that's good. I'm really happy he's healthy and alive, though, because the world needs that dude. So I'm going to jump on this next one. It's a little bit... I'm going to hit the smaller story first, and then I'll get to the bigger one. One of my favorite bands, they only released one album back in the day, which was like late 2000s. Late 2000s, early 2010s, called World Fire Brigade. Has officially announced that they are coming back. For those of you that don't know who it is, it's a guy named Sean Danielson, lead singer and main songwriter and everythingist of Smile, Empty Soul. The original lineup also included Brett Scallion, the original singer and guitar player for Fuel. And then another guy who was like the producer, songwriter, helper-outer named Eddie Wall, W-O-H-L. I could be saying that wrong. I'm going to read the statement just because this... Because this was a big deal to me. I love World Fire Brigade. It was like a really heavy version of Fuel and Smile Empty Soul came together, and it was a lot of fun to listen to, and all the tracks were really good. And it was out of range. Like, Smile Empty Soul sounds like a modern version of Nirvana, and then you have Fuel from Brett Scallion, and then they drop-tuned a lot of stuff, and it was kind of heavy and fun. So I'm going to read his statement because for me, I was really curious where they went because their music isn't on Spotify. Their music isn't anywhere. You can't find it. The only reason I'm able to listen to it is because I have the CD sitting behind me.
So it's not on YouTube either.
No, it is on YouTube, but it is not via World Fire Brigade. It is via people that have uploaded it illegally. For those of you that don't know, the reason I said it's sitting behind me is because I have like two 500 CD racks behind me. I've collected records, CDs over the years in my studio, so they're sitting behind me. So Sean Danielson released this. I started a band a while back with my good friends Brett Scallion and Eddie Wool. We made a record and called the project World Fire Brigade. The record came out, but the label that released it did a terrible job, which was true. No one even knew that record existed until I figured it out. They released it, did a terrible job of releasing it and promoting it, and then the record label folded and went under. I wonder why. Leaving the album in limbo and not available on any platforms whatsoever. We've now finally found a new label situation and will begin releasing these songs one by one starting next month, which will be October. So that's awesome. So we're going to start all of the old catalog will start coming on to streaming platforms. The first new song, Shot Down Again, will release on October 18th, and you can pre-save it here on any digital platform. We are excited to make this music available for those that are already familiar and introduce it to those that are not. So he also released a statement saying that Brett will not be part of it at this point. Brett did sign a contract a little while ago to be writing songs for another thing, and that was a couple of years ago, like COVID era. So I'm not sure if Brett's tied up with that or he just didn't really have the time to do another side project or whatever, but he won't be part of World Fire Brigade, which will be a little weird. My assumption, to be fair, is I think that Eddie Wall and Sean Danielson are the main songwriting group of this, and Brett was just like, hey, this sounds like a cool idea. So he won't be back in part of it. Let me actually look really quick. Everybody on hold. Josh, play some elevator music while I'm looking at my record collection, because I want to confirm that this new song, Shot Down Again, wasn't on the original album and that it is a new track. And I will look at my CD collection, tell you right now.
Okay, well, I'm not going to do elevator music because I don't use the elevator. I walk up the stairs every single time I have to use it. Fraiser just uses the elevator because he is lazy and doesn't like to walk upstairs, so he would know elevator music more better than I would.
All right, so I'm back. So the song Shot Down Again, basically the 9th track on the album is called Shot Down. So my assumption is they called it Shot Down Again, either as a bonus track or it is the renaming of a track of the Shot Down song off the original album.
Or it might just be maybe
by the way,
it's
for those of you that don't know and want to look into it, the original album is called Spreading My Wings. So I'm assuming that this is a re-release. This will be a re-release of all the original material of all of World Fire Brigade's one and only album. Yeah, because that's what it sounds like. And then the last piece of news before we get into the big one for the day is, for those of you that might have noticed on Spotify, for those of you that listen to kind of the mainstream and mid-tier metalcore bands like I do, may have noticed that there was an extra song popping up everywhere from all these bands like Memphis Mayfire and Motionless in White and Until I Wake. And a bunch of bands were addressing it, saying, by the way, this isn't our song. We don't know
AI
how
is here to take everyone's jobs.
Yes. Basically, somebody made an AI track or made a song that is not metalcore. It was pretty much just EDM and got away into all of these, metalcore bands' accounts and uploaded the song to all of their accounts under their names. So Memphis Mayfire has a new song, and Motionless in White has a new song, and all of this, but it was the same song by the same artist that he slid into their catalog. I'm assuming they're not going to make any money off of this, so I'm assuming this is just a publicity stunt so people will start asking who uploaded that song and they can figure it out. Kind of a shitty way to go about it, you asshole, but whatever.
Yeah, fuck that
It's not
guy.
like it's not like it harms the bands that were involved, so it's not like I have a huge disgruntlement about it. The biggest thing is hey, we were all excited because we thought these bands had a new track coming out, and nope.
Well, and a lot of music platforms too don't, I know Tidal has a really bad problem with it, but they don't split up multiple bands that have the same name. What was that the band that had Jared Dines and Howard Jones in it?
Scion.
Scion. There's another music group that spells exactly the same way, but it's all like instrumental, almost like Caribbean elevator music.
Right, and that's done almost on purpose. So those guys
same with
Attila
Attila too. There's a one that's called Attila, but it's a one single rapper. And
right, but those guys that are doing that on purpose, and Spotify isn't filtering it very well, because what's happening is these guys are making their own tracks and then piggybacking off of that band's music. 12 Stones had this happen to them years ago. This hasn't been a new thing. It just finally happened en masse on the same time on the same day to a lot of metalcore bands. There's a lot of people out there that are stealing bands' names and just releasing tracks, so that they hope you accidentally click on their track.
Right, and then you play it, and then you start looking into who it actually is.
Right, and then it's always an EDM AI track, so kind of crappy. But so big news for the day. Are we finally going to crack this egg?
Well, we didn't talk about the bass player from Amity Affliction, but I say he's not coming back.
That is a bigger deal. Do you want to tackle that one and your opinions on that one first?
He goes by String, doesn't he?
No, it's Aaron Stringer. That's his name.
Okay, well, I always know him on social media because I think he goes by String or Strings. But yeah. Amity Affliction's bass player and clean singer has... It's weird. I think we talked about this before, where he says he was asked to sit out a tour, or that Amity Affliction said that they wanted him to sit out the tour so that he could go, essentially in pretty words, to rehab. He came back with a post saying that he wasn't asked to do it; he was made to do it.
Yeah, the two things that were said was Amity Affliction said, "Hey, please support our brother Aaron. He is going home to do this and that, and go to rehab and get some help for something." They didn't disclose what, if it was alcohol or drugs or whatever. And right. Aaron basically didn't deny those claims, and all he really said was, I don't know why people even bother saying this. He goes, it came out of nowhere, and I wasn't ready for it, and it was out of the blue. Guess what? That does not change. That's all he said. I'm like, that doesn't change anything that happened. Of course it's going to be out of the blue. It's called an intervention, dude.
You don't schedule the intervention with the person who's getting the intervention.
Right. So, yeah, you don't call and be like, hey, we're going to have an intervention for you on this day. So
okay, cool. I won't be there.
Yeah, you can continue the story from there.
So he has come back and said that he is going to basically come back to tour with Amity Affliction for the rest of the year. No. Starting, I think, on the next tour, right?
He's only showing up for Australian dates. I have the actual, I have the statement right here. As to the part you're referencing. As for plans with the Amity Affliction, I will definitely be performing at the Big Pineapple Music Festival and on the upcoming Australian tour. So yes, you were right, but he's only touring at home in Australia.
Right, because Amity Affliction is an Australian band.
Yes. However, after these shows, I'll be taking some much needed annual leave from the band throughout 2025 to focus on my continued personal growth. So you were right. I'm sorry. He will be on the next tour, but it's because it's in Australia for like, what?
I said I know I'm right.
Yeah, but he's only going to be on like 5, 6, 7 dates in Australia because he's close to home.
Right.
And then he'll be taking all of 2025 off, what he says.
In my opinion, that kind of tells you that he's going to take a year off to basically... Because they're re-releasing Let the Ocean Take Me. They re-recorded it from the looks of it and are re-releasing it. I kind of think that since Let the Ocean Take Me is one of their biggest albums, I think it's more of a...
I can tell you right now, it is their biggest album, hands down.
So I think that it's going to be that they're re-recording it and re-releasing it, and that's going to be Aaron's swan song. That's going to be him basically walking away from it and taking a year off next year to basically work through all the stuff with releasing the new redux of the album, finishing up the couple shows that he's wanting to do in Australia, and maybe he'll probably show up with his own band or do his own thing after that, because they have a fill-in vocalist and bass player right now for the tour that they're on right now.
Right. And a lot of people have voiced that, said the thing where like we're really happy that Aaron's getting his crap together, but the guy on stage isn't Aaron because Aaron's such a big part of the band. So I completely agree with you that this will be Aaron's kind of send off. He's gonna redo Let the Ocean Take Me. It'll probably be his last big payout. He'll get the royalties from that album, and since it's a redo, they're probably doing it independently of the label, so all the money will be going to them. It'll kind of be his cash out, and then he'll be done, and he'll have obviously all the royalties that he's for songwriting credits and all that throughout the years with the band, but this will probably be his send-off.
Yeah, I'm betting that by the end of 2025, at the most, we'll have probably a confirmation on either he's going to come back or that he's officially done with it.
Yeah. I mean, I hope let me be clear, because I say things so plainly. I hope he comes back because he is such an integral part of the band's sound, especially his vocal style. You can't ever replace that.
Yeah.
But I don't hold high hopes that he's going to come back to touring. I have a feeling towards, one of two things is going to happen. Towards the end of 2025, enough people are going to be asking what's going on that they're forced to talk about it, or they're just not going to talk about it and hope people forget.
Yeah, because as far as I can see, it doesn't look like Amity Affliction really has a whole lot in lieu of touring being announced going into next year.
Yeah.
So
which means record time.
Yeah, it kind of seems like the stars are lining up to say that they're going to either record with somebody else or, Aaron's going to be done with it, and they're going to have to look at it and move on with whatever they end up doing.
Right. Okay, so the real big bombshell.
Onto the lesser news for the day.
The nuclear bomb that was not only dropped on the rock and metal community, but the entire music community as a whole. I'm going to go ahead and just say this because this is all I could think the entire week. Hey, guess what? Jay Gordon's rumors were true. He is tight with the band. I knew that from the beginning. Jay Gordon's always been tight with the Linkin Park guys. And the rumor mill, basically, Jay Gordon just accidentally let the cat out of the bag a little earlier than he intended.
Yeah, when I read this and I saw this, I almost texted you and just said, like, hey, looks like he was right, and looks like we already got this info way in advance.
Yeah, I mean, this was the equivalent of, like I said, when people like see TMZ releases something and go, that can't be true, and then like a month later it turns out it's true. It's like, yep, okay. So Jay Gordon knew what was going on behind the scenes. I'm sure everybody knew what was going on behind the scenes. Everybody that like is tight with Linkin Park was probably told to just, hey, keep your mouth shut. This is a secret. The thing we're talking about is obviously the big bomb shell that got dropped was that Linkin Park is back and official with a new singer and a new drummer. And the new singer is a female, as rumored. Everything that was in the rumor mill up until this point has been proven true. And we are actually going to review the song today up in album reviews. We're going to hit like Moths to Flame's new album first, and then we will talk about the song. But yeah, so it's out there. It's officially happening. They've announced a new record. They've dropped a new single. They've they've showed pictures and videos of the band and the new singer and the new drummer, obviously. They've released the video for the single too and actually show all of them in action. Yes, and they also did a live show. That was the big thing. I wonder if live stream. So this is my conspiracy theory. Is that timer was a countdown to a private show that everyone got bussed into, and it was hidden, and it was live streamed eventually. Yes. But I wonder if maybe something happened with the show and they had to push it back a week. That's the only thing I can think of is something happened with the venue. It was an emergency thing, and so when the timer ran out, that's why they had to do the clock ticking back up. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was a publicity stunt at this point. I think it was something happened behind the scenes, and they had to change dates really quick. But the band did a bunch of, obviously, all the big old material with the new singer and the new drummer live, and the new single live. And it's all on YouTube. It's free, and Linkin Park themselves released it. So it's out there. Who is the new lead singer? Where is she from? I'll be honest. I know she's from Dead Sarah, but I think her name's Emily something. I can't remember her name right now because I'm just
Armstrong,
blanking.
I think.
Hold on. I have the article in front of me. I'm just like being lazy about it. Her name is
Not Chester.
It's not Chester, obviously. Oh my word! I don't actually have her name in front of me because I basically I just
her name is Emily, not Chester.
Article, yeah, it's not Chester. When I clipped the article, what I did was I just took a screenshot of the article. Emily Armstrong, you are correct, and she is from the band Dead Sarah. Their new drummer is a guy named Colin Britton, which he's worked with a few other bands. Sounds like he's more of a studio musician, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He's worked at, or a session guy, maybe not studio, but session guy. He's worked with quite a few people. So Rob Bourbon is not with the band anymore. He will not be participating in anything Linkin Park. I think we should just kind of wrap this all up into one big news cycle. So Rob, the original drummer of Linkin Park, will not be a part of it anymore. Mike Shinoda released a statement. Rob himself has not, saying that even back during COVID, which was in 2020, during the Hybrid Theory 20th anniversary, Rob wasn't really at any of the shows, so they had a stand-in drummer. He wasn't really there for any of the packaging or the celebration for it. And Mike's way of saying...
And it sounds like he was becoming more and more hard to contact, too.
Yeah, and he said he was, Mike said it sounds like he was trying to put some distance between himself and the band. I'm sure after Chester's death, Rob was like, okay, I've made my money. It's time to relax. This is too much for me to handle, which is totally understandable.
Yeah.
When you suffer a loss that big, I love the way Mike put it, which was, it's only my life's work hanging in the balance. Somebody said, "Wow, it must be." He has a lyric in an album in a song he wrote about Chester's death. Mike Shinoda does, and the lyric is, somebody asks him, "Wow, it must be hard to think of what to do now," and he goes, "Thanks, genius. You think it'll be a challenge? It's only my life's work hanging in the balance," which is a great line.
I believe that was from his solo album for is that Post Traumatic?
Yeah, called Post Traumatic. That's correct. So
and also,
I think that's
Brad Delson will not be there either.
No, so I think that hit Rob harder than most. Also, they're getting older. Not that they're old, but they are getting older. Touring kind of sucks. So I think the grief and everything and the emotions may have hit Rob harder than everyone else. And he's like, "Look, I'm just gonna not touch this. This is where this needs to lie." And as you said,
Brad Delson, their guitar player, will also be missing out on the reunion tour. And from his statement, it sounds like he's not even going to be a physical part of Linkin Park's live shows. It sounds more like he has said that he's always felt deeply connected and proud of their live performances, but he's also realized that he thrives more working behind the scenes and in the studio. So it sounds like he's going to pull kind of like what like Will Putney does for Fit for an Autopsy. He is their main songwriter. He's the main guitar player. He records with them, but he usually doesn't tour with them because he's also a producer in his own right.
Yeah, it's Ollie Get-Good. It's Ollie Get-Good from Periphery.
Yeah, so it sounds like that's what Brad Delson will be doing from now on.
Yeah, he's in the studio. He's helping with bass parts. He's helping record Matt Get-Good with his drumming and all sorts of stuff, but he is not an official member anymore in terms of the touring aspect. So Brad was there for the live stream, which I think was awesome of him to do, especially knowing like what the fans were really hoping for. Not seeing Brad Delson on stage with his giant freaking headphones that he always has is just gonna be a missing hole in Linkin Park.
Yeah, because his guitar tones and his presence are just it's part of Linkin Park's identity, and they're going to be having another guitar player basically fill in his live role, but it sounds like he's going to be working with him in the studio.
Yeah, and again, I know it sounds really corny, but as a kid, I thought the coolest thing ever was when Linkin Park's guitarist always came on stage with these giant, mega, like, what you would think of L.A. headphones. Like, they were always cool colors, and they were always, like, different, and he didn't use in-ears. He used these giant, massive, like, Skull Candy type headphones, and it was part of the look. It was part of the underground, like, Linkin Park held such a weird spot in a good way for me nostalgically. This is where I start getting emotional over Linkin Park. That they were like, when they came out, they were cargo pants and Adidas sneakers and oversized clothes. Like, they were like
Spiky
downtown grungy underground LA, graffiti everywhere, and that was like, they were like that, like this, what I call the street band. Like, they were like this cool underground skater street band, and then they blew up. But they kept that image all the way through at least the first 2 albums.
I want to say Meteora, the person on the front of Meteora, also has a similar pair of headphones on. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so the person on the front of Meteora is actually the graffiti artist that did all the art for Meteora.
Yeah, because
the
they
guy
brought
that's
him
crouching
back.
down,
They
spray
brought
painting.
him back and did like a new picture for the new re-release of Meteora.
Yes. Yep. So that's the news. We are already like 40 minutes into this, so we should probably get into album reviews, because we're obviously going to review like Moths to Flame's newest effort, and then we are going to get back into Linkin Park and talk about the new song, and we're going to give more opinions on what's going on. Do we want to hit the we should probably hit the Scientology claims with Emily Armstrong really quick. Just real quick overview glossing, because to me this
Scientology is a cult, and they can flag our YouTube channel for it.
This is just them. To me, honestly, this is people trying to just find dirt and find a reason not to like the new singer, in my opinion.
It's nitpicking at her. I mean, we all knew that there was going to be a gigantic uphill fight for whoever took that lead singer position.
Exactly. So, but long story short, for those of you who don't know, this is going to be tied in, I promise. I'm going to switch gears, and then we'll come back how this all connects. Danny Matterson, who was originally in the show That 70s Show as Clive, and then he was also in a TV show called The Ranch that also had Ashton Kutcher.
I thought it was Hyde.
It could be Hyde. You're right. Or Hyde, whatever. But everybody knows what I'm talking about. The dude with the afro and the sunglasses in That 70s Show is a member of Scientology. His brother was as well. He was convicted of raping, multiple rapes, and then he was obviously accused of many, many, many more over the years, and that Scientology tried to hide it and cover it up and all sorts of stuff. Emily, at one point, because Danny was a friend, sent in a letter of like basically support, and
it's a letter to promote his character, that he's not this kind of person. It's what a lot of court systems will do with these kind of cases is you're sending in a letter, you're sending in a video file talking about how I know this person, they would never do this, my experience with this person. It's not an attack on their character, but it's a defense of their character.
Yeah, and anybody can have anybody do this. And when you're in the same church together,
Fraiser's going to do it to me when I finally murder somebody.
No, I'm going to tell everybody I knew you were an axe murderer. But I mean, everybody does this for any case where they're in a defense situation. They find people that'll defend your character, and as long as they're a reputable person that's not on drugs or whatever, long story. Legal battles there. But the point is, she sent in this letter, and everybody is up in arms that she, as a woman, is a terrible human because she, quote-unquote, defended a rapist. And she even came out and said, look, first off, she didn't deny any claims being attached to Scientology, which I don't care. Like, I don't care what church or religion you're in, as long as your church or religion doesn't tell you to kill people or harm people. But so she didn't deny any claims of being attached to Scientology. She still might be a Scientologist. She didn't deny any of that. She didn't even address it. So my assumption is she's part of that group, which is fine. Do your thing. But she did address the allegations of defending Danny, which she said the first day, she's like, I wrote in that letter before the trial started, and I went to the trial the first day. And she said she sat in the courtroom. She goes, and after day one, or before day one even ended, I left because I was so sickened with all the evidence, and I realized I had made a mistake. Okay,
yeah, there's been quite a few people that have actually said that about that. I know Ashton Kutcher wrote a letter characterizing everything.
Ashton Kutcher defended him because they were on 2 TV shows together, and the second one called The Ranch, which was hilarious for like the first couple seasons. Danny was on every single episode, and Ashton Kutcher himself, who is a massive proponent of anti-rape and sexual assault, has gone to defend women's rights, also wrote a letter of support for Danny because he didn't know. It happens. You know people and you find out secrets about them later. It happens. It's not that people are like, hey, I defended this person, I still defend them to this day. It's not
Yeah,
what's
it's
happening here.
Danny's not going to go to Ashton or Emily and say like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I did this," and they're turning around and still defending it. It's
Right.
they are defending the person that they know in their heads.
Right, and the person that they've interacted with. So to nitpick this to death is so an attempt at character assassination and is not even fair to her in a remote amount of sense. I get it. We all love Chester. We all love Linkin Park and what they did. Don't go this far. This is where the music community needs to take a step back and let bygones be bygones.
But
Anyway.
we'll save what we say about it for the album review for the song.
Right. So anyway, like Moths to Flames, you go ahead and take it away. That's your album. What's the name of it? The Whole Nine Yards.
My problem? Oh,
No, that's
so
your thing.
like
I didn't say a problem.
oh,
That's your
well,
album.
my hearing is terrible. The tinnitus has been affecting my mental well-being for a long time. That's why I am the way I am.
What?
Huh? I can't hear you. There's ringing. So, like Moth the Flame's new album is called The Cycles of Trying to Cope. And this album came out in 2024. This is, honestly, in my personal opinion, it's a little biased, is probably one of their best albums they've put out in a good long time.
Agreed.
So their last album, No Eternity in Gold, and Dark Divine, The Dying Things We Live For, didn't hit as well for me coming off of their first and second albums, which were a heavier, more traditional metalcore with more technical guitar playing, more technical drums than you were seeing in the community at the time. Those albums don't really hit as good for me. I feel like they kind of experiment with some stuff that, didn't, hit or miss, whether it landed or it didn't land. It's kind of up to you and your personal opinions, which I'm not listening to, because my personal opinion is that The Cycles of Trying to Cope is by far a massive step up for them. The ironic part is that their vocalist is the only original member. And so the lyrics have been consistent. And the music style has stayed consistent. And that's why this is almost more surprising for me that this album was such a bigger step up in their catalog than the last couple of albums. Because, he comes out the gate swinging on this album. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like Moth the Flames have been out this since 2010. This album came out May 10th, 2024. And we've had a couple videos come out for it. I don't follow music videos super close, but their video for Over the Garden Wall was the one that kind of snagged my attention first. Right. I see the title Over the Garden Wall. I think of the cartoon show. I think it's called Over the Garden Wall. So I was like, oh, maybe it's a tie-in to it. It's like Moths to Flames. I haven't listened to them in a while. Let's give this track a try. And holy hell, this thing blew me out of the water. Like, Chris's vocals are way more top-notch than they have been in a long time. He even is going back to hitting his lows and some of his squeals on these songs. His singing is just right back up to where it needs to be.
Back to the Amorosa days.
Yeah. Like, he's not trying to strain a higher pitch, but he's definitely working with what he's got, and he's owning it, in my opinion. This album has a lot heavier stuff than I think we've seen from him in a long time. Like Over the Garden Wall, like those double bass sections they've got in between the bridges is a lot heavier and faster than I'm used to hearing them since their first couple albums. Like, this album, it honestly shocked me how much better it was than I expected it to be.
I agree. My thing is, so I'm a big Dark Divine fan, and everybody on this show knows that I'm the more melodic guy. So no one should be shocked there. The fact that they did Dark Divine and kind of did the softer, more melodic stuff really made me happy. One thing I didn't want to hear out of this album, I'm going to say some sacrilegious stuff about Like Moths to Flames. I used to call them Like Moths to Flames breakdown core, because all their songs, from start to finish, the guitar work was all breakdowns with vocals over top of it, and they would just change up the breakdown. And it really drove me nuts. I'm like, if I wanted to listen to a 3-minute breakdown, I'd listen to a 3-minute breakdown.
I have the same problem with Flesh God Apocalypse.
Yeah, like I don't want to listen to a 3-minute breakdown with screaming over top of it. There's a point to where it just gets old and boring. And then Dark Divine came out, and it was a complete 180. And I think that was because that's at the same time that Bring Me the Horizon was kind of doing their thing, and everybody, including the Amity Affliction, like Moths to Flames, everybody kind of took a slightly more melodic turn and tried it, and tried to do the Bring Me the Horizon method.
Ever since the Dying Things We Live For, the album before it, they switched labels, I believe, between Eye for an Eye and Dying Things We Live For. So Dying Things We Live For was them trying to experiment more now that they weren't on the original label they were on. I think they're on Rise, and I think they went to UNFD. But my problem with Dying Things We Live For is their guitar tone is so fucking muddy. It just sounds like you're putting it through a blown speaker. But like you said, when Dark Divine came out, that was 2017. We were seeing, the Jordan Fish version of Bring Me the Horizon starting to blow up more and more. Mm-hmm. And, Upon a Burning Body was starting to implement more clean singing into their music. So Dark Divine, I will agree with you. It did feel like more of a trend album, but I still stand by Dark Divine. I think that's a great album.
Oh, I do too. I love that album. But so I also wanted to run one caveat by you because I realized this. This new album is an entirely new lineup. The last album came out. Last album came out in 2020, which means it was probably recorded early 2020 or 2019. And
that's No Eternity in Gold.
Yes, No Eternity in Gold. And this album came out in 2024. All the members except for Chris are new as of 2021, which is after the last album came out. So this whole album in its entirety is a whole new group. And what I'm happy about, as you said, is that this isn't breakdown core. It has heaviness to it. It has breakdowns in it. Obviously, if it's a like Moths to Flames album, it's going to. But the songs are songs. They're not a 3-minute breakdown that changes the breakdown. It's a 3-minute song, and Chris's vocals, as you said, have only gotten better. And I think with Dark Divine, he stretched the cleans and stretched his ability on the cleans and went back to he used to be an Emarosa, for those of you that don't know, which is all clean singing.
Way back in the day.
Yeah. One of those bands like Dance Gavin Dance that just cannot find a singer to save their lives. And so this was like, Dark Divine was like, okay, I'm going to go back to that a little bit. And I didn't listen to the last album, but this album was definitely a return to just aggressiveness and coming back with those screams that are all, the ones that made people originally fall in love with like Moths to Flames. But it's not just breakdown core the whole time. It is actual songs with substance and technicality. And it's fun. And the funny thing is, like I said about the Wage War album, this one's actually kind of fun to listen to. It's not just aggressive. It actually kind of has some weird air of lightheartedness about it, which I know because
you definitely have songs on there that are more clean singing than screaming. You don't, but I feel like you don't with this album have what a lot of metalcore bands are doing now, where it's like your first 2 songs are like out the gate, heavy, aggressive in your face. Then the rest of it almost becomes like a pop punk album.
Right.
And then you may get like 1 or 2 songs middle or at the end that kind of brings it back full circle. Like this album front to back is, it doesn't lose momentum.
No, it does a good job of keeping itself going. Whereas like we were talking about Wage War last week, Wage War kind of just slams you against a wall because you're just changing modes and emotions all the time based on just how one song's super aggressive and then the next one isn't. The next one is aggressive and the next one's aggressive after that. And it's this weird like just pinball kind of effect. This is more of a smooth ride.
Yeah. Like I believe it's even Kintsugi. It's more clean singing than screaming, but it's not a pop song. It still has that, like Moth to Flames, brand of being that kind of darker, heavier song without sacrificing the heaviness for the fact that he is clean singing for the majority of it. And even the breakdowns don't sound out of place. They don't slam you against the wall and then back off immediately just to, get a reaction out of the listener. It flows with its bridges, it flows with its verses, and they don't seem out of place.
Right. Yep.
And I think this is the album that I feel like, I mean, they kind of come and go with their popularity, I feel like, but I feel like this album is the one that really is going to solidify them with being able to tour with heavier acts, or, have maybe lighter acts open for them to get prepped for having their now what's probably going to be a heavier show with these songs coming out. Yeah, so what was your favorite track off of there? Which one do you like the most? And don't say Over the Garden Wall, that's mine.
I just like the first track really stood out to me, like just making it
Angels Weep.
Yeah, just making it a good opening track. It was heavy. It announced you into what you were going to be getting. I really do look into the first track of an album more, how do I say this, more critically than I do any other song. Because I'm very much like, how do you want to open this album up?
How are you going to keep my attention once we start?
Right. And so the first track was like, I was like, no, okay, this is, and so I'm not really like saying it's my favorite track. I still have to listen to more of it and let it all kind of sink in. But the first track, starting the album off on the foot it did, was an excellent way to do it. So that's more of my thing, is not, in this case, is not like, I haven't found a song that's my favorite yet. I still need to keep listening to the album and let it grow on me and kind of figure out where. Because the other thing is, I also really love lyrics. So sometimes it's not the song, it's the lyrics that catch me. So there's also a level of letting all the lyrics sink in and everything. But yeah, that first track was just a good way to start off the album and get things going.
I agree. But I don't agree with you, because everybody knows that Over the Garden Wall is the best song.
Okay. Okay, and then obviously the last song, well, it's not an album review, but the song we're going to do is obviously going to be Linkin Park's new song, oh my word, I'm an idiot, I didn't even look at it. The what machine?
So the song is called The Emptiness Machine.
Emptiness Machine. I wanted to call it The Killing Machine, but I knew that wasn't right. I'm going to let you rant first, because I'm sure you're going to frickin' rant, and then I'm just going to be like, hey,
you're going to let me rant?
This? Yeah, and then I'm going to say like, well, what about this? And I'm just going to kind of nitpick where you're at. So you can go ahead, and I'll tell you where you're wrong.
All right, buckle up, boys and girls. Here's Uncle Josh's review about how music should never change and always be the same, and that's always worked for Led Zeppelin, hasn't it? So why doesn't it work for Linkin Park?
Josh loves this song so much.
Okay, so I'm going to shoot myself in the foot with saying this. I don't hate it. And my problem with not hating it is the fact that I think it's a good song. It's got the same level of kind of that raw energy that Linkin Park's The Hunting Party had, where It was like, it felt like a garage band that was just, you're going to get hit in the face of that garage show no matter what, how raw it's going to be. I don't feel like it's a good Linkin Park song. And to hear me out further with this, I don't think it's a good representation of past Linkin Park. Is this a good representation of what this new album is going to be, and basically the trailer for what's going to be probably the rest of their career? They're going to have, a successful career going forward no matter what. They had a successful career since the, early 2000s.
They're like Metallica. They have built up such a fan base that they cannot fail at this point. They're too big to fail. People will come out to watch them no matter what, even if it's for the novelty of seeing the new singer.
But at the same time, I don't feel nostalgia for this new song. It does not it doesn't bring me back to old Linkin Park. It doesn't bring up any feelings of comparing it to Hybrid Theory, comparing it to Meteora. It brings me to a place of thinking of The Hunting Party, which was, again, like, it was a hard rock album. Everybody knows that my favorite album by Linkin Park is 1,000 Suns. I'm not feeling that off this song at all. And who knows what this album's going to give us. It's such a mixed bag, I feel like, putting this song out and saying, like, this is the new Linkin Park. This is who we're going to have, basically singing with Mike Shinoda on these songs now. I didn't watch the live stream. I barely even caught the fact that the video came out that night when I went and listened to it. And, of course, number one person I text is Fraiser, and we're already explaining how it's going to be a spicy episode today.
Yeah. So I agree almost with 90% of what you're saying. I like the song as a standalone.
That's a
song.
solid B minus.
Yeah, I don't like it as a Linkin Park song. And actually, the funny thing is, I have the opposite opinion of you as to why. I think it does sound. I think it doesn't sound like Meteora or Hybrid Theory. I think it totally has that Minutes to Midnight feel. My biggest hiccup with it, actually, my biggest praise for it, is the opening guitar bit when it gets heavy. It sounds like Meteora there. That the octave chords going fast. It has that Linkin Park DNA from Hybrid Theory and Meteora. But the second Mike sings the entire first verse and chorus is when it loses me. My biggest hiccup isn't the new singer singing. It's actually Mike singing.
Right.
Mike, go back to rapping. Like, we want... I know that since Linkin
Mike
Park...
Shinoda made it okay for white people to rap, just like Eminem did.
Mike Shinoda's Asian.
Well, I'm white, and I could rap to it.
Right. How do I put this? Since Linkin Park ended, and in between Linkin Park existing, we have had thousands of tracks with Mike Shinoda singing on them. Mike Shinoda released his own 18-song album. We have Fort Minor, which is a rap project. We have all the other Linkin Park albums since Minutes to Midnight that Mike Shinoda is singing on. And I get that people are like, well, Mike Shinoda's always sang. I get that. But
he's more sang on the more recent albums, I feel like.
Yeah, he has. But my thing is, Mike, we know what you sound like singing. We don't, like, and here's my biggest problem with Mike Shinoda singing. It's the same formula. It's the same type of melodies. I feel like the second that him and Emily started singing, I was like, oh yeah, this is a Linkin Park song, because the melodies almost exactly track everything else they've ever done after Hybrid Theory and Meteora.
Right.
You could tell immediately that it was written by Linkin Park or Mike Shinoda or whoever, because all of the parts and all of the vocal melodies follow the exact same style and pattern, which may have been intentional. But to me, it was kind of left boring. The only part that stood out to me in the song, her vocals are great, by the way, but I actually played this for my buddy. We were sitting in his kitchen, and when she starts kind of really finally pushing her vocals on the chorus, that's when both of our eyebrows went up. And we're like, ooh, this could be good. And then it drops down into this boring-ass bridge of repetitive lyrics. Like, and I'm hoping they let her, like I told you this on text, I hope they let her off the chain more, like Jason needed to be let off the chain in Drowning Pool. But when she finally pushes her...
That was my biggest problem with Jason.
Yeah, not him, the fact that he just didn't get to push himself. But when she finally starts pushing her vocals in that second chorus of the song, that's when my eyebrows went up. And I was like, oh, I can listen to this. This is where it starts getting good. But everything before that and after that was boring as hell. So this track gave me hope, but not a whole lot of it. Because I'm worried
I'm gonna hear this song at Hot Topic. I know that.
Yeah. I'm worried that I'm gonna have to hear this song I'm worried that this song is going to be Minutes to Midnight or One More Light all over again. That's what I'm worried this album's going to turn into with the way this track came out. It's going to be Mike Shinoda doing these really low, really melodical, really pretty singing, and we're not going to have any of the actual aggression that came with Chester. My other big hang-up is, and my concern is... Chester, the big thing that brought Linkin Park up was Chester's experiences and his ability to write about some pretty dark subjects, which we all know what he battled with now. I'm worried that I wonder if she can bring that level of aggression, because that's what Linkin Park, in my opinion, what Linkin Park needs back is their aggression, and right now they don't have it. This song had no balls to it.
And that's going to be Linkin Park's problem going forward, is that they don't need to rely on the aggression anymore. They can play the older stuff. It's kind of like, my opinion, like with Shinedown, where Shinedown doesn't need to make like heavier music anymore. They can just piggyback off of the old material that is heavier. I feel like that's kind of what Linkin Park is going to end up doing. I feel like the heaviest this is going to be is like how much you can call The Catalyst a heavy song by them.
Yeah, like Linkin Park and Shinedown to me have the exact same problem. Hinder did this too. like Shinedown started heavy, Linkin Park started heavy, and then they got 3-4 albums in, and then they did an album that's like 50% heavy and 50% ballads. And that's
but
what
unfortunately, that's the one that gets the most attention because more songs can go on the radio, more songs can be played in the general public.
But that's what I want to stop hearing. I love Shinedown live because they play a lot more heavier songs than they do ballads. They have to play their ballads because they're bigger. But
right.
Come on, dude. Quit writing 50%. Like, I don't want a 10-track album of a rock band that's 50% piano-led, which is what Linkin Park turned into, and that's where I'm concerned this is going. Because this song was guitar-led for the first 30 seconds, and then the verses hit, and then it was back down to piano-led and, piano soft guitar-led. Then we get to the second chorus, and it picks up for like 10 seconds with the aggression, and she can bring the aggression, which was good to hear. And then we drop back down again, and then we left it there. Like,
yeah,
give me some oomph on these tracks. Let's go back to like having some gutturals and some angst. Something.
I don't know. I feel like with this song in particular, it's gonna be. We're probably gonna be. What's this album called again? I think it's From Zero.
From Zero.
Yeah, which is a reference back to Linkin Park's first band name, which was Zero spelled with an X, and they wanted to try and bring that level of restarting a new beginning, naming it From Zero. I feel like honestly this album is going to be more of a safe album. I don't feel like they're going to really push her too much because of comparisons with Chester. They're going to be playing this. They're going to be playing, 1 or 2 songs off this album at the live show. They're not going to be playing this album in its entirety.
No. I have a feeling that this is going to be another album like Post Traumatic, written by Mike Shinoda with Emily on vocals.
And like I told you too, over text, this song feels more of a Fort Minor song with a guest vocalist.
Agreed. Well, or like a Mike Shinoda Post Traumatic song with a guest vocalist.
Yeah.
That's what I think of. I think of that. I don't, because Mike didn't rap in this. So I feel like it's like the post-traumatic album. And that's what I'm worried about. That's the best way to put it. I'm worried that we're going to be getting post-traumatic from now on out, but with Emily on helping out on vocals, which is not what I want to hear. I want to hear Linkin Park. Heavier, more aggressive. I didn't like Hunting Party at all. It was too raw for me. But give me back some of the aggression for Pete's sake.
Hunting Party was only maligned by me because they had Darren Malakian on one song and he didn't even sing.
Oof. Alrighty. So with that, I think we've bashed the Linkin Park subject into the ground. For those of you that don't know, my name is Fraiser.
And I'm still Josh, and I still have bamboo splinters under my toenails.
Yeah, you earned them. All right, and we will catch you all later. Thanks for listening.
Bye, everybody.